Many people believe Mark Carney came almost out of the blue. He was in the right place at the right time and needed in a time of desperation to swoop in and save Canada from Trump. So he simply stepped up to the plate. But what if that's a lie? What if that's just a story they told you, the story they wanted you to believe? What if Mark Carney was being positioned to be where he is now years ago? What if the liberal majority that we found ourselves in was no coincidence at all, but an outcome that was a byproduct of careful planning and secret preparation? Today, we take a deeper look into how Mark Carney went from living in the UK for over a decade to forming a majority liberal government. Because based on what I've seen, this was no accident. This was all according to plan. A very bad plan. So let's start in 2020. After the COVID pandemic, Trudeau's government decimated Canada, and most Canadians followed along with this misguided plan to shut down the country for like 2 years. So naturally, the economy was in shambles. Trudeau decided he needed some economic advisors to come in and help us put Canada back together. Well, we know a progressive central banker that was supposedly the hero of 2008 financial crisis, which he really wasn't, but whatever. In comes Mark Carney to save the day. He leaves his position as the governor of the Bank of England and is appointed as Trudeau's economic advisor in August 2020. So this is where the story starts developing, and Mark Carney is brought back into Canadian politics, introducing himself to the Liberal voters. He actually appears on the Liberal convention and introduces his book and his plans, telling everyone about his experience and his resume and talking about his vision and for the future of the country. This is something he does a lot, but Mark Carney is a master of manufacturing a crisis, or at least making something seem worse than it is to make people afraid. In his speech, he talks about the changes we need to do going forward to ensure the future of this planet. Jobs being replaced by technology and the world being destroyed by climate change. He did the same thing by saying Trump is threatening our sovereignty during the election in 2025. And people fall for this kind of stuff. Don't let a good crisis go to waste, they say. After this keynote speech and addressing the Liberal base, something interesting happens in 2022. And I actually got this next tip from a follower. It was emailed to me, and it's actually the reason why I'm even making this video. In Maclean's magazine in March 2022, there was a section with Mark Carney that, if you can believe it, actually predicted Mark Carney would take over for Justin Trudeau and run the government during the later part of Trudeau's term. This is exactly what it reads. Hard to imagine a greater challenge than saving the world from climate disaster, except maybe running to lead a certain late cycle governing political party in Canada. So it seems like Maclean's here literally predicted Mark Carney being the next Prime Minister of Canada by replacing Trudeau. So let's break this down. Late cycle, meaning nearing the end of. Then governing political party, meaning the party that is currently in power. But it gets deeper. So just bear with me for a second. Let's fast forward to September 2024. Mark Carney is named chair of the Task Force of Economic Growth. They put him right on the Liberal Party website and make him sound real nice. Trudeau says he will, quote, play a vital role in shaping the next steps in our plan to continue to grow our economy. So this is a significant role. This isn't just giving them advice. He's shaping their future economic strategy basically on his own. You know, when you read through Mark Carney's so-called accomplishments, it's almost like his entire career was just leading up to this moment. It's like it was made to impress Canadians. Then the rest of the plan plays out. Trudeau gets destroyed by the Conservatives by running the worst economic policies known to man, most notably the climate change ones, specifically the carbon tax. Then he resigns in shame. But there's something very important that Trudeau did before he resigned, which was very significant to the Liberals' plan of power and domination. He packed the Senate. The Senate's job in Canada is to review legislation passed by the House of Commons to make sure laws are fair. However, it's a bit strange because the ruling party essentially picks who works in the Senate. So if you're the ruling party and you want to get laws passed, it's best to only recommend senators that align with your values, so it's easier to pass laws with little amendments as possible. I believe Trudeau's job and his role in the plan was to pack the Senate so that they could make it as easy as possible for themselves to pass whatever law they want. As it stands, there are 97 active senators right now, and Justin Trudeau appointed 81 of them. Now the Liberals have their overqualified leader and a packed Senate. All they need to do is have no friction when passing their agenda, so they need a majority government. But before we get into that, the floor crossers, let's make sure that we clarify the Liberal government has been trying to recruit floor crossers literally for years. Matter of fact, Melanie Joly literally admits this, further proving that this was all according to plan that they've been having for many, many years. After Chris D'Entremont crosses over to the Liberals, Melanie Joly admits they've been trying to recruit him for 5 years, which would be in 2020. You can't make this stuff up. Now, time for the floor crossers, who, after the 2025 election, definitely are giving off a if you can't beat them, join them vibe. The Conservatives were up in the polls by over 20%. Then after Mark Carney announced himself as the leader, the new Liberal Party, he gained a ton of support and won 169 seats, just 3 shy of a majority. But this isn't good for the plan. To carry out their agenda, the Liberals needed a majority government. So, therefore, floor crossers. Before we get into that, I need to clear something up. There's this idea that the CBC is currently spreading, gaslighting all the Canadians that feel betrayed by floor crossers, that I really need to completely debunk. Which is, you don't vote for the party, you vote for the person. This narrative is completely untrue, and I'll tell you why. First off, when you vote, you literally vote in the ruling party, and not even necessarily the leader of the ruling party. Let me explain. Let's take Justin Trudeau. When he resigned, that didn't automatically trigger a general election. That's because when the leader resigns, the ruling party stays the ruling party until the next election. Meaning, once you vote in a party to rule, they have to carry out their term or do an election to have another ruling party. So really, even when you vote for a specific MP in your riding, you're really voting for who you want to be the ruling party until the next election. That's what you vote for. Now, let's say even the Prime Minister doesn't resign, but he's such a bad leader that a huge amount of MPs cross the floor and join another party, which gives that party more seats than the ruling party. Just because that party has more seats in the House of Commons doesn't automatically trigger an election. What actually happens is the House of Commons would probably lose confidence in the ruling party leader. The leader would then go to the Governor General, and then the Governor General would decide the next course of action, whether that be asking the party to rule, or asking another party to rule, or calling an election. All that to say, you ultimately vote for the party, and the only way the ruling party will change is through the general election or the Governor General. Now, let's get into the fact that no one in Canada even believes that you vote for the MP, which they shouldn't, because you don't. First of all, MPs don't even behave as individuals. They behave like they're just a part of the party. A report by Canada Commons exposed that MPs vote in line with the party 99.6% of the time. And it's so funny, they even encourage MPs to start being more independent and think for themselves and on behalf of their constituents. I mean, the whole reason we have democracy in Parliament in the first place is to not concentrate power. Seats in the House of Commons are divided up into a spread to spread out power. MPs always aligning with the party completely misses the point of this. Then you have the fact that 50% of Canadians say they don't even bother remembering the names of the candidates in their riding. Does this sound like a population of people that vote for the MP and not for the party? It doesn't sound like that to me. Only 6% of Canadians say they vote for the MP and their riding. 1/3 say they vote for the same party every single election, regardless of who the leader or the MP is, and a similar amount vote for the policy or issue positions of the party. And 2 in 10 vote based on the leader. So the lowest percentage of all of those groups is voting for MP. But it gets worse. Only 26% of Canadians say they support floor crossing, how it works currently. The other 74% believe the MP should either step down, serve out their term as an independent, or run in a by-election, with the by-election preference having the highest support at 41%. So Canadians in general don't even support floor crossing, except when their party is benefiting from it, of course. When Conservatives were asked if Carney's majority through floor crossing is legitimate, obviously, 80% said no. When Liberals answered the same question, 76% said yes. Party loyalty never fails. But it stands that most Canadians generally don't like floor crossing and want to see a change. However, every time there's a bill that would change how floor crossing works, it's shot down by both the Liberals and the Conservatives, usually whoever has the most votes. Bills 210, 202, 446, 251, 208, 306 voted down every single time by various MPs all over the political spectrum. So if Canadians don't support it, why hasn't it changed all of this time? Was this a card the political elite wanted to keep in the back of their pockets? Because that's what it seems like. All the party leaders can say they couldn't stop the MPs from crossing, saying they must have just been liars this whole time and they just betrayed their voters. But I'm not buying it. Personally, I think the political elite are all on the same side, trying to protect themselves, and keeping floor crossing was all a part of their plan so they could do something similar to what Mark Carney just did with floor crossing. Everything about floor crossing is just super sketchy, and I don't trust any of it. Marilyn Gladue, it's a bit of a stretch to say she was bribed, but I find it odd that on an interview she complained of never receiving federal funding in her riding before she crossed. Then after she crosses, she received a phone call from the Infrastructure and Housing Minister office immediately. She says, quote, I had sent the minister a one-page of all the things that lined up with his file that we wanted in Sarnia. It went really nowhere until I crossed the floor. Maybe I can't call this bribery, but definitely seems like there's something going on there where she has a personal gain in order to get political points. Then there's Michael Ma. While he was with the Conservatives, he was meeting with groups affiliated to China's United Front. These people are businessmen or women that operate in foreign countries and build businesses using Beijing's money and receive orders from China. Then after Ma crossed the floor and within a month was key member joining Mark Carney's delegation to Beijing. People say he could be a Chinese plant. So I think it's likely. But with that assumption, we should also be aware that the Conservatives dropped the ball on this. They had him first. But even if he wasn't a Chinese spy, he definitely joined the Liberals to gain political points and get closer to China. Then we have Chris D'Entremont. He claims he crossed because he's a red Tory and didn't feel he fit in with the Conservatives based on his values. You know, the voters always seem to be left out when these people talk about why they crossed. Nobody seems to care about your values. Your job is to present the people that voted for you. Only 6% of the voters even remember the names of you people. I just think that it's strange that before he crossed, he lost the Speaker of the House role that comes with a $100,000 pay bump. My guess is, after he didn't get what he wanted, he decided to betray his voters and see what the Liberals were offering. Best guess I got. Matt Genereux, I actually predicted would switch sides and then he switched, so good on me. He got himself a nice little role as a special advisor on economic and security partnerships. Don't pay him any extra money, but definitely looks good on a resume, I'll tell you that. So, political points. Lori Idlu, I think crossed because her life is a complete mess, and she needed to join a party that allows her to fail upwards. Her alleged son was caught with child exploitation material. Her stepson was arrested for alleged sexual assault. She was caught buying items from her own business and expensing the items to the House of Commons multiple times. Business probably isn't going well. I mean, being a part of a shrinking party wasn't part of her plan, I guess. She needs some stability. All these people are clearly self-serving and could care less about serving their voters or their country, and look what it's led to. Immediately after the Liberals got their majority, they moved to pack the Senate and end debate in committee meetings. So now they have all the power they need to pass any law they want. Game over, guys. Democracy is done for. The only advantage we have now is it's impossible for the Liberals to blame anything that happens now in this country on anyone else. They are in full control. So this is perfect time to wake up your brainwashed family member or your brainwashed mom or dad that says that nothing's happening. And hopefully we can wake up enough people before the next election, assuming that we still have elections. Just kidding. Of course we will. Anyway, we ended that on a dark note, but I still encourage everyone to do what they can. Spread the truth. Wake up the people closest to you. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed, like, share with a friend, and subscribe and comment your thoughts down below. I'll be reading all of the comments as usual, and as always, peace.